is invading our home. They are brutal, relentless, unstoppable. We are 80 samurai against an army, fighting to slow the invasion. Today, I die for my people. There must be thousands of them.
We will face death and defend our home.
Tradition, courage, honor. They are what make us. We are the warriors of Tsushima. We are samurai! Nodadachi, go break their spirits. Hey!
Outsiders! Send your finest warrior to face me!
Nada, Jinnida.
I am Harunobu Adachi, descendant of the legendary Yoshinobu Adachi.
Samurai! Do you surrender? Cowards without honor deserve no mercy. No mercy! Open fire! All Tsushima!
So it's been 6 years since the last time we saw the publisher Sucker Punch publish anything, and now in 2020 we have a new IP that is absolutely a work of art that is as captivating as it is fun. What game am I talking about? If you don't know what game I'm talking about, you might have been under a rock for the last few years. The game we're talking about today is Ghost of Tsushima, a game that just came out and I have been looking forward to since its announcement back in 2017. Many of the games I review are PlayStation exclusives. And there's a reason why, and that's because the games on PlayStation are pure diamond. They're not just gold, they're diamond. Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games that deserves a front row seat in games that show PlayStation's brilliance. Enough fanboying, and now let's talk about the game's story. This time, we will not go into any spoilers unless people want a spoiler review, and my thoughts on those moments in the game that make your jaw drop. The story. The story of Ghost of Tsushima takes place in late 13th century, when a Mongolian warlord known as Kutis Khan invades Tsushima on his pillage towards the mainland. You are Jin Sakai, the last of the Sakai clan, a noble samurai who learns everything he knows about fighting from his uncle Ishimura, since his father died at a young age. The game starts with a huge battle on the beaches of Komoda, where you're first introduced to Khan, as someone with no honor and a brutal lust for bloodshed. As your uncle sends one of the other leaders of the clans to fight Khan, he is swiftly dispatched and shown no warrior's death. This angers the samurai into charging into the battle. They lose the battle because they only know one way of fighting, and that is with honor, to which the enemy has none. Jin is injured to the point of death and is taken care of by a peasant girl named Yuna. She informs you that Ishimura is in Castle Canada, and you are then pushed into using tactics that the samurai frown upon to win battles. You rally up allies on the island to help you in your quests, and in turn you promise to help them with their quarrels. You fight battle after battle, getting faster and stronger, all for one goal: save Tsushima. Jin believes his uncle is the only one that can bind the islanders to fight the Mongols. However, Jin doesn't realize that he's the only one lighting the fire of hope when his uncle is bound by chains. The game is broken into 3 acts, and each act is packed with side missions, encounters, and collectibles. Everywhere you go, you're surrounded by stunning scenery and an alive Tsushima that fuels the desire to see Jin's story progress. The Ghost. What makes the game so memorable is that it's mature without meaningless gore, nudity, or cursing. The violence that is shown is always used to emphasize the impact of how you feel. From seeing someone you grew to care for within the short time you knew them lose their heads, all the way to taking the heads of Mongol leaders. Each of the acts of violence is used in a way I haven't seen in games for a while. Jin's journey up from a noble samurai to a dreadful ghost is shown in how he takes on his enemies. He originally believes in fighting face to face, but with his teachings from the thief, he learns that striking from the shadows or from tall grass or from even rooftops can be quite effective. As Jin becomes more of the ghost, you'll find random flashbacks throughout the game of your teachings from your uncle on how a samurai is supposed to act, causing Jin to reflect and contemplate whether or not he's doing the right thing. However, Jin knows that the only way to fight the enemy is to become unpredictable and fight like none who came before him, to break the standards and become something terrifying. You learn to dispatch small groups of foes without alerting others, chain assassins, smoke bombs, and breaking apart groups with lures. All great ways to strike fear into the enemy. I found that the best way to take down camps was to have the ghost approach at first, and then finish off the groups with the samurai approach. The world. Tsushima is a beautiful landscape that depicts a war-torn island that even in its darkest times still has a ton of calmness and beauty, some areas untouched by war. The world successfully uses its environment to showcase the art and the passion put into it. Areas that are occupied by settlers and Mongols feel very lived in, and even areas that are empty have a charm to show off the parts that make Tsushima resilient. When you visit settlements, you are shown what villagers have endured, but also you are shown what they're currently going through. Occasionally, later in the game, you come across villages being bombarded by fire and death. You are also given the option to help them out by putting an end to the terror. The best thing Sucker Punch did for the game is making the HUD very limited, to the point where it throws you off guard. You're not used to it. You just are used to having everything on the screen. So many games today have the clutter of the screen that is consistent, and instead of using road maps that outline the route, they use the guiding wind system to immerse the player. The HUD is a very subtle white, and the only colors that are used are for health and resolve. This allows the world and your effects to pop out more and be more vibrant, as well as allow the world to tell a story without taking away the immersion. Traveling by horseback never feels like a chore because the world is littered with things to find and people to help. It opens up the map as you travel or when you take out enemy strongholds, which show you things that you haven't discovered and places to go. The tales that you find are things that you can only find by interacting with NPCs and talking to them. These tales give the world more life and more story, and more fire to strike the Mongols when you encounter them, as they expand on what the invasion has done to people and the people who look up to the ghost. Gameplay. Whether you're riding a horse or you're fighting, everything feels smooth and very in control. My only complaint is that the camera is sometimes a little bit frustrating, because if you get inside of a building and you're fighting, things come and block your view, and then they can lead to things going kind of haywire. And the only other thing that I could say that is kind of annoying is how many fox dens there are, because there's about 50 of them. So you kind of got to follow these little foxes around, which at the end you can always end up petting them, which is kind of nice. But other than the camera and the fox dens, gameplay always feels exciting. I found myself constantly looking for a fight because the fight mechanics are so well tuned. The way Jin cuts down his foes feels like it's straight from a Japanese movie. Blood splatter is something that is done right, to the point where when you're fighting in water, the water doesn't just splat on the ground, it dissipates throughout the water, which causes more immersion because that's how you expect it to go. People falling from fear also feels empowering because it shows the impact that Jin has on the enemy. And the game gives you many tools to take on challenges that makes fights feel unique every time. Traversal feels like it has weight. You don't feel like everything is able to climb, but at the same time you feel like everything should be climbed. People say that climbing is too much like Assassin's Creed. However, that's far from the truth, because it has its own touch. Climbing mountains sometimes causes the camera to pan over and then showcase the world that would typically be ignored, because You're focused on where you're going, but not the journey. And all this causes the game to have a great gameplay, and it all ties into a great experience within gameplay and story and scenery. Customization. There are many ways to customize Jin from sword to mask, and the level of customization is vast. With 50 plus items for clothing alone, you can create the samurai you desire. The clothing also has different dyes that you can get from merchants by using flowers. There are also 2 specialty dye merchants that sell black and white dyes exclusively. You find swords at honor pillars, and there are so many to collect. Personally, I like anything that has red, white, or black, because those colors pop out the most in the environment. Some clothing and hats are also found throughout the world, but those don't really have much indication other than the yellow birds sometimes leading you to them. I know this review is pretty short, but my verdict in the end is Ghost of Tsushima is a masterpiece of a game. Something that is well worth the wait and anticipation. An amazing story with moments that lead to heartbreak and decisions that felt very heavy to ever, make a choice. Because I've spent a lot of time just sitting there and wondering, am I making the right choice? Is this what I really want to happen, to play out? Gameplay that is capturing and addicting. Enough that I've played hours daily all week just to earn a plat. Immersion that is through the roof, and great mechanics and customization, and a phenomenal story that sends chills through you. Makes this game a highly recommended title that I am excited to see what stems from it. If you have anything else that you'd like to share, maybe just put it in the comments, leave a like, maybe a subscribe. I try to do these every couple weeks because it takes a little bit to play through a game and get the script all writ up. But if you like it, leave a comment, like, subscribe. And as always, peace, love, homies.
And all I got were stupid bumblebee feet.
And his fish. Who's there?
I know it. It's what I thought.
He likely stole from Shino's father.